Vomiting Rainbows. This is episode 25. It's a milestone episode where we go back and we revisit a little bit of our history.
Yeah, we talk about some stories from past episodes, and we also go on some epic current tangents. We talk about feet.
Yeah.
We talk about tattoos.
We talk about tattoos. We talk about Flocka. And the non-use of Flocka. So listen and enjoy. Dude, so 25. And you're not even wearing your Vomiting Rainbows t-shirt.
Did you cross out the...
I did. I crossed out. You can see it now no longer says 20.
It now
says
says 25. Now
20 explanation 5.
When are you going to cross out the 25 and put like...
I think it's time to get new shirts.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It might be time.
I think it would be cool if like 25...
It just keeps going. Maybe I'll just get like a white line under it.
What's the next... So the next big one's 30.
Is the next one big one 30?
I think it's like birthdays. Like 30's big. It's
Okay.
like 21's big, 30's big, then 40, and then 50.
Okay, so I think for 30, we should shoot to have somebody like really rock star on. Like maybe we could convince Matt Pinfield to come on.
Oh, Matt would come on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
so
how about maybe Dave Grohl?
Dave Grohl. I'm totally
We
down
could
with
do
it.
stuff by phone with a lot of rock stars. Getting them
Okay.
in is a little bit harder, and I prefer to have them in the flesh
Yeah.
than just on the phone. But we'll work on something. We'll work on something fun.
If we could get Dave Grohl, that would be pretty. I would do that over phone. That would be pretty
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Or by video conference like Skype.
Yeah. We'll have to work on that technology. We just got our streaming down. Let's take baby steps when it comes to
I don't know if we should go that far.
Yeah.
So does this mean like we're quarter century now?
Basically, I think that in the podcast world, we are young adults. We moved out of our parents' house. We actually have our own
25,
apartment.
Not at this age.
Not this age.
No,
Not
25. We're still mooching off our parents.
in 2017.
Yeah, it just depends.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like that's still like a thing.
I think that is one thing that makes me feel old is when I come across people who are like 25. It's like our parents. Like we were 20 and we didn't have a family of 5 kids. They were like, you don't have any kids yet? You know what I mean? Because like the generations, things change over time. I think that's the one thing that does make me feel old is like when I meet people like who are 25 or 30 and they're just like, I just bought my first car. And you're like, what? Or like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like...
Or they just got off their parents' insurance and they're like 30.
I wish that was an option when I was growing up. You know, I just don't think I had insurance.
Yeah, I think you might not have.
Yeah, like I think like back then it was just kind of like you were 18 and then you basically didn't get insurance until maybe you got some type of legitimate job.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there were many years there. I think basically what
I'm talking car insurance though.
Oh, car insurance, yeah, because the law, dude, that's how old we are.
The law didn't require it, did it?
You didn't have to have insurance.
No.
When I got my license, you did not have to
Uninsured
have
motorist fee was not even an issue.
Yeah. I remember when it changed because I still didn't get insurance and I got pulled over and there was a grace period, I think of like maybe a year. And the guy was like, dude, it's been 18 months. Like, you need to go get insurance or you're going to have to pay like a crazy ticket. And I remember I was in San Jose. I drove down to like there were all these like pop-up insurance places. You know, there's all those places where you can buy gold now and sell gold. It was like that, but for car insurance. And there was this place in San Jose on like San Carlos Street next to a laundromat.
It was called the General.
I don't know what it was, but it was like it looked like this place had just opened up that morning. There was like a desk and like a dude with some forms, and you wrote him a check for like $50, and then he gave you like a thing he sent to the DMV. I don't even know if it was legit, but I didn't have to pay the ticket.
Right.
We're totally tangenting right now.
We are. But what we'll say is this is Vomiting Rainbows.
25.
We are on episode 25. This is a podcast where I tell my buddy Mike some stories that he knows nothing about, and he chews them up and spits them back in a colorful rainbow.
The thing that sucks about this podcast for me is you give me these stories that I know nothing about, but I realize now that I've been doing this podcast for 25 times, I just don't know a lot. like it's not just in this podcast, people throw things at me that I don't know a lot about. This happens. This is like a daily theme in my life where people will come up to me and they'll start conversations about things that they're so passionate about. And I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I do know that there is a thing called Pop-Tart burritos.
Yes.
Like the things I know are so different than what most people are talking about. I feel kind of like I'm like an island of disconnectivity. It's strange.
Well, Well, the other thing, too, is you spend so much time kind of hunkered in here.
This is true.
So here is the studio in which Mike works.
Yeah, I'm a radio DJ, and so I spend a lot of time listening to music. And the thing that's interesting when you listen to music a lot, and especially like if you listen to a lot of the same songs over and over again, you pay a lot of attention to the lyrics. You spend your time researching these bands, and so like my knowledge base, like I might be a PhD in musicology when it comes to like alternative music, right?
I know that several times we'll be talking about something and I'll throw out a lyric to a song and then you'll hear it, then you'll kind of keep your train of thought and then giggle.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that and that's my point. Like what is it applicable for? Giggles.
Yeah,
you know
giggles.
what I mean?
Right.
Like if I had this type of knowledge in programming or like astrophysics, I would be like one of the leading astrophysicists in the world.
Right.
You know, it just happens that I applied my brain power to music, which I love, and I'm glad I did. But anyway, it is a theme that I'm seeing more and more in my life that I don't know
Right.
a lot about a lot of things.
Well, so on this episode of the podcast, what we're going to do is we're going to revisit a bunch of what I would say our biggest stories, of which one we aren't going to revisit because there's no need. And that's when we were talking about Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff.
That was good stuff, though.
Yeah, it was good stuff. We got a lot of feedback on that one.
Yeah.
But the first thing that we should definitely do is talk about the 1, 2, 3, 4 tattoo that is on your foot, which just smells like a bouquet of flowers.
Yeah.
Actually, it doesn't even smell at all.
My feet don't smell.
Yeah.
They can, but they don't right now
Okay.
for some reason. But yeah,
I consider that a blessing.
yes. Doug asked me to share a tattoo today, which is interesting because I know Doug doesn't have any tattoos, but I think he wants to get one.
No.
And I think that you're interested in it. And so, like, you kind of want to know, like, the reasons why I have certain tattoos, what they mean,
Right.
what motivated me to get them, to see maybe if you're, like, you know, like, you're like, okay, well, that, you know, like, if Mike can get a tattoo because he was inspired by a squirrel he saw walking in Golden Gate Park, I guess if I get a tattoo to honor my mom, it's okay.
Right.
You know, like, I'm a litmus test for you.
Yeah, you are a litmus test, especially because you have told me that almost every one of you have some that have extremely deep meanings,
Yes.
and others when you were passing by a tattoo shop and really wanted to get a tattoo.
This is true.
So it's kind of both ends of the spectrum.
1, 2, 3, 4 on my right foot. I'm a drummer. The bass drum, you play with your right foot.
Right.
And that's like your basic count of rock and roll is 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're a fan of the Ramones, and that tattoo is like a Ramones tattoo, but it's the ultimate Ramones tattoo, and I'll tell you why. The Ramones, they if you ever saw them live in concert, they didn't talk at all in between songs. They never addressed the crowd. They never shared any stories. The only thing you would ever hear from one of them was 1, 2, 3, 4, and they kick into the next song.
Right.
And the Ramones are one of my favorite bands of all time. I just love them. They were so awesome. I saw them a handful of times, and every time I saw them, I just have a great memory of it. I had the opportunity to meet Marky Ramone. And
wow. Okay.
He's the drummer. He's not the original drummer. He basically, once the original drummer left and managed the band, I think after the first or second record, Marky became the drummer. So he's drummed with them for forever. And I think he's one of the only, besides CJ, one of the, couple Ramones that are still left alive. Anyway, I got a chance to meet him. And at the same time we met him, there was a tattoo party going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to Marky Ramone, and he plays the drums. I play the drums. And I said, hey, man, I go, will you tattoo? I want a Ramones tattoo. I want you to tattoo me, And he goes, okay, what do you want? I said, well, I play the drums, and I love your drumming style. It's been inspirational in my life. Can you tattoo 1, 2, 3, 4 on my foot? And so he takes a Sharpie, and he writes 1, 2, 3, 4.
Uh-huh.
He's like, all right, cool. And the tattoo artist is there, and he's like, all right, yeah, now you can get a tattoo. And I was like, no, dude, like I want you to pick up the tattoo gun and tattoo this on my foot.
Is he a tattoo artist of any sort?
Not at all. Not at all.
Never touched a gun.
No, and he's got to be almost, he's in his 60s, dude.
Right.
And he literally was like, I've never tattooed anyone before in my life. I've never tattooed anyone. He's like, this is crazy.
Right.
But he was down for it. So he literally took the tattoo gun and traced his 1, 2, 3, 4 on my foot. So that tattoo is a Ramones tattoo tattooed by a member of the Ramones.
That is really cool.
Should I just drop the mic and walk away right
Yeah,
now?
I think you should just, do that.
That's pretty, I don't know. So that's the story behind that tattoo. And I say it's the ultimate Ramones tattoo because it was actually tattooed on my foot by a member of the Ramones. Like that's, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like what else do you have to say, right?
Yeah. I had a really cool like kind of dinner last night it was Jerry Harrison's birthday.
Okay.
From Talking Heads.
Yeah.
And he invited me up. We were having dinner with some of his friends. I spent all night talking to John Perry Barlow, which was epic.
And what do you guys talk about?
You know me. I slide into geekiness.
Yeah.
And so we talked about the origins of Windows.
Awesome.
And who was first, Mac or Windows?
Yeah.
And then he got very heated with me and very adamant that it was Mac first.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of Googling going on.
Yeah. And do you think some stuff online like changes? You know what I mean? Like maybe Google's more into the Windows, so they kind of change the information. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like someone who's writing stuff for Apple, obviously like we were first.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there could be a lot of misinformation because from what I understand from our current president, Doug, all news is fake.
Yeah.
I don't know what to believe anymore.
There's nothing real.
Yeah.
And if it is real, you can just give an alternative fact.
Exactly.
So
confusing.
So it got very heated. And at that point, I did realize that he is a very staunch supporter of Mac.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other thing that I found out was, as like a rock legend, he knows this stuff inside and out. Like
yeah.
I was talking to him as somebody who studied this, and he was schooling me on different parts of history as well.
Yeah.
It was
about rock music?
No.
Oh, about computers.
About computers.
Yeah.
He's fascinated with it. I feel like when you're in the Bay Area, you're kind of, if you're in somewhat way technically savvy, you get to meet people and then you're fascinated with them. And no matter what, you will probably.
Well, especially when you're meeting people that, I'm sure he has access to all kinds of cool people. Like he probably hangs out with Wozniak. He probably hangs out with dudes who were there, right?
Yeah.
And, these guys are living history
He had
makers.
Woz on his phone. He was like, let's just call Woz right now and resolve this. And I'm like, it's a little late and we've had some drinks. Let's not call Woz.
But that's awesome. And I think that's one of the cool things about living in the Bay Area is that so much of, computer history is here. I mean, I don't know if you've ever gone to it. I have. The Computer History Museum in Mountain View
I have.
Awesome.
It is amazing.
It is so awesome. And I mean, it really, it gives you the whole kind of span of very early computing to, somewhat what's going on right now. But, if you are, and I wouldn't consider myself a computer geek, I loved it.
Right.
And I learned a lot, and it gave me a really kind of, like, it's a great feather in the cap to have that this is, the Bay Area, this is where all this stuff, kind of formed, so it's, I find it fascinating.
Yeah.
Doug, I do have to backtrack though. We were talking about a tattoo on my foot earlier.
Right.
You took a picture of it that you're going to post when we post this.
Yeah, it'll be on Instagram, all of our social media.
I got a couple questions for you. Why do dudes' feet look so weird and women's feet don't? Like if you see a woman's foot, it's painted, it looks kind of attractive. You might consider putting it in your mouth.
They paint it.
They paint it, yeah.
So they know you're going to look at their feet.
But like a guy's foot, it looks like it belongs. Like I was looking at a picture of my foot. I'm all, this belongs on an animal. Like this, like it just doesn't look healthy. It looks like it's never seen the sun. You know what I mean? Like why are dudes' feet so gross?
Well, and we don't ever put them on display. Like women put their feet in open-toed shoes that are very beautiful and all of these things, and guys like cover them as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, it's
high tops. We would wear high top boots if possible.
I think that maybe if my feet were more exposed to air, they would be better looking. Like I feel like I looked at that picture of my foot. I'm like that looks like something that's dying. It looks like something that's suffocating. It looks like something that needs to be loved.
It wasn't green.
It wasn't green, but at the same time, I was just like, dang, man, that thing is pale. And it's like, it looked like it was like attached to a dead person.
Yeah. And when was the last time you got a mani-pedi or something?
Never. Yeah. I never have.
Yeah. It's just things that we're not concerned about.
And I've had like ingrown toenails when I played sports. I mean, my feet have been through some gnarly stuff.
I have a girlfriend who will be unnamed who was really reluctant to tell me what she had to do one day because I was like, hey, we got to go to this thing. Do you want to go with me? And she was like, I can't. And I'm like, why not? And she's like, I have an appointment. I don't want to talk about it. And it
Yeah.
was because she had an ingrown toenail.
They're nasty.
They're gnarly.
They're gnarly. They are so painful.
Oh, dude.
And I got it. I had them. I played sports, and looking back, I realized why I got them so bad when I played sports in high school. And it was because my parents, I'm not blaming my parents because I could have said something, but if you have a kid, you basically, you get their feet measured and whatever,
Right.
Well, apparently my parents just kind of stopped measuring my feet at size 10 and a half.
Uh-huh.
So like my entire high school career, like I wore a size 10 and a half cleat. And then when I got out of high school and went into the Army, like I had like an 11 wide. So my entire like high school career, I was wearing like these super small, like
Right.
compressed cleats, and it destroyed my feet. It just
Yeah.
would rub against it. And I mean, and they have to like, dude, if a ingrown toenail gets infected, it is the grossest thing on the planet.
They
And
have to cut it
basically-
out. They
yeah,
cut it all the way to the bone.
yeah, I had it.
I have it on both sides.
Did
'cause
you
I
have-
ran I ran track.
I was both sides too.
Yeah.
And it's gnarly. They numb your foot. They take a pair of scissors and they cut it right down the center.
I know.
And then they grab like a pair of pliers and they just pull the nail out.
I can just feel people all throughout our podcast cringing.
And then they take some kind of crazy like acid.
Yeah. And they kill it.
Yeah, and they put it on the end of a Q-tip and then they cram it into where they just ripped out the nail.
I couldn't watch, dude.
And it kills the nerves down
Yeah.
there and kills the nail so it doesn't grow back.
Mhm.
And dude, it is so weird because on one part, like the pain
Dude,
that you were
if
feeling,
I just pass out, you'll just tilt me back up, all right?
you know what you've been through this.
I have.
So have
but,
I.
Yeah, but I think I'm reliving it all now.
Yeah. So the weirdest thing is when they do this procedure, the part of the ingrown toenail all of a sudden feels immense relief.
Yeah.
But then you have this like new pain, like this deep nerve pain. And it's
And
just
it doesn't go away.
it doesn't go away.
for like at least a week.
Yeah. And I remember my football coach, like I was like, I can't practice. Like I just had my nails ripped out. And he was like, I remember he stomped on my foot. He's like, you got to toughen up. And I was just like,
Oh my god.
I'm like, I can't run. I can't plant off the foot. It was
Right.
so painful. Oh.
The other thing too is that when I got mine done, he's like, yeah, you're getting one on the other one, so we might as well do that one now. And I was like, I don't think I can do this again.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, dude, you can do this.
Yeah. No, it's horrible.
No, it was awful.
It's horrible. It's horrible. This is totally grossing me out too, though, for
Yeah.
some reason.
All right, so let's go on to the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
Let's go back to episode number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say something to you, and then you're going to tell me what story I'm talking about.
This is like a short-term memory test.
Yeah. So the kid said, help me, I ate something bad, to a police officer. And the police officer said, what'd you eat? And he turned to him square in the face and he said, humans.
He was on Flocka, bro.
He was on Flocka.
Yeah, Flocka definitely a highlight.
I think this was probably you and I's like most amusing episode because we really enjoyed the Flocka discussion.
Well, I mean, I think anytime you talk about recreational drugs, number one, there's always cool names. So they're always kind of, they always, whoever markets the recreational drugs should like take that talent and get into marketing candy bars or something because
Right.
they always think of like cool names and things that sound interesting. Like, I don't want to eat people, but at the same time, like Flocka sounds like something that would be fun to experiment with, right?
Right.
So I mean, I think that their talents are a little misguided. But I remember that conversation specifically because of Flocka and it being the new drugs. I'm not really into recreational drugs, so it's always fun to find out what the kids are doing. But then I think anytime the topic of narcotics comes up, it's always interesting because it's been such a huge part of our lives.
Yep.
From Just Say No and Nancy Reagan to
Dare.
where we're at now, Dare, to where we're at now, where recreational use of marijuana is going to be a reality.
Dare stands for drugs are expensive, right?
Dare, I don't know. Dare to resist drugs. I think I have one of those stickers on my car. I think.
Right?
Yeah.
So where we left this when we were talking about this in episode 2 was this guy was in intensive care. He hadn't talked to anyone. They didn't know what he had, but they assumed it had to be one of these drugs like Flocka or something.
And that's the hard thing too. I always think for like law enforcement or even like health agencies, like all of a sudden, this guy eats somebody. He's in the ER. This guy's locked up, and they're like, "What did you take?" And he's like, "Flocka."
Yeah.
And they're like, "What is it?" Like they're like, "What is Flocka?" They don't even know.
They have no idea.
It's almost like when the guys who make all these crazy drugs in their labs out in the desert, like when they release them, they should send like a bulletin to like emergency rooms. Like, dude, you're gonna have a bunch of crazy drugged out people on Flocka. This is what it is.
Right.
This is how you can kind of get them down from it. Just as like a public service, right?
Right. So just to quickly revisit it, what happened was this young guy, Austin Haroof, was eating dinner with his father and sister at a sports bar. And we remember this specifically because I brought this up. I brought up the sports bar, and then I told you that it was $12.99 for all you could eat ribs.
I know.
And you got excited about it and thought that we should do a podcast from there.
I know.
But
I don't understand how a place can make money. $13 all you can eat ribs. Like, ribs are expensive.
yeah,
They take a long time to prepare, and you can eat tons of them.
yeah.
So I mean, for $12.99, that boggles the mind. It really does.
So now they've changed it. It's a half slab for $9.99.
And who eats a half slab of ribs?
No one on the planet just sits down and has like a half slab. I think that's like 4.
I think, and it's usually a half slab and half chicken, or
Yeah.
you get, but if you want ribs, you got to go full rack.
You
man.
got to go like all night.
Yeah,
There's no need to switch.
half rack is. I'm actually wearing a rib shirt right now. Gorilla Barbecue in Pacifica. Have you ever eaten there?
No.
Oh my God.
Are we going to do a podcast from there while eating ribs?
We should.
I think that's maybe that's 30. We'll have Dave Grohl. We'll eat
Dave
ribs.
Gorilla Barbecue.
Great, Dave Gorilla Barbecue.
The thing about Gorilla Barbecue though is like I couldn't eat a half rack of their ribs. Like I get like a triple meat plate on that, and it is so much food, Doug.
Mhm.
Like, it is ridiculous. Like, if I go there for lunch, I don't eat dinner or breakfast. I
Yeah.
can't even eat all the food. It's so much, but it's so good. But like 2 of their ribs must have like 5 pounds of meat on it. It's ridiculous.
I did that. I went to Franklin's, and I got
Yeah.
their sampler plate. So Franklin's in Austin.
Yep.
Oh my God, dude! By the time I was out of there, I felt, because it's so good, I
Yeah.
felt obligated to eat it all.
Yeah.
Dude, I thought I had meat sweats.
And there's
Like,
there's like Stubbs in Austin.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be I have a couple friends that live in Austin, and I've never been to Austin. I can't believe it, but they say it's just the best. They say
Yeah.
they say like you could eat barbecue every day.
That's what
It's so good.
I went there for South by, and I
Yeah.
stayed for like a week and a half every single time. And everywhere I went, I was like, "Let's get barbecue."
But don't you think it's different? Like when you eat barbecue, you're probably not eating 3 times a day. Like in California, where you maybe eat a little bit healthier, like you maybe have like some kind of like egg omelet thing, and then like a tuna thing for lunch, and then some sushi for dinner. Like I think you're eating a little bit lighter food. Like when you eat barbecue, like this is what I think of when you eat barbecue. Like you wake up, you maybe have a bowl of Golden Grams, maybe.
Right.
And then like you're hanging out, you don't eat, maybe you wake up at 8, you have that Golden Grams, and then like around 2:00, you get your rib on, you get your barbecue on, and you eat like maybe 5 pounds of food, and
Right.
then that's it. Till that next like bowl of oatmeal or Golden Grams in the morning, like you're done.
Have you seen the people in Austin? I feel like a lot of them maybe eat barbecue a couple times a day.
Really, these big people. I mean, if I lived there too, I'd probably.
Nothing against the people in Austin.
I'd probably go for 2 massive barbecue meals. I would eat my first barbecue meal around 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably have ribs, some potato salad, some coleslaw, some cornbread. And then I'd wait till about, that'd be around 10. And I'd wait till about 7:00, and I'd have like brisket and maybe some chicken and some beans. And then that's it. Eat twice a day.
No,
man, I'm
no
so
big
hungry.
sampler. So we got off topic, but
Links.
anyway, so they went to Duffy's Sports Bar. Austin, he was upset about the service. He said it was taking too long, so he left. His dad said he was really quiet the entire time, uncharacteristically quiet. He had been that way for about 3 weeks, and they were very concerned about him. He then left dinner, went to his mom's house, where he tried to chug Wesson oil.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, and then his
Like
mom.
that's a red flag. If you're a parent, and it's one thing like if you catch your kid trying to like chug a bottle of vodka or pounding beers, but when he's just randomly opening the kitchen cabinets and like trying to, eat a tub of Crisco and pounding Wesson oil, like
Yeah.
that's when you call the police, the National Guard, the
Yeah.
fire department, like because that's just not right. Like that's way, 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 way off.
So his parents, it was obviously disturbing to her. So she then went to call her husband, her ex-husband. They're separated. He came from the restaurant, met them over there. A lot more details came out after we talked about this.
Yeah.
But
well, this is good to know. This is a red flag. Does Flocka make you crave Wesson oil, right?
That's the question. So then the next thing that she came in, and he was eating Wesson oil and Parmesan cheese out of a bowl.
That doesn't sound so bad. When you with the cheese.
I was about to say, do we need to also revisit what Mike won't?
Yeah. For some reason,
I think the answer is nothing.
Yeah, that sounds kind of good actually. Like I'd spread it on some bread maybe.
I was actually thinking this, like maybe an olive oil like Parmesan cheese cocktail probably wouldn't be that bad.
But and that's what I'm saying. Maybe he just like Wesson oil, like that's the closest you get to olive oil.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird. Drugs, there's a class of drugs out right now, I think, for schizophrenia that's been traced to having people do like all kinds of weird behaviors, like compulsive gamble and stuff. And they're directly linking this stuff. Like these people are taking this drug and all of a sudden they're exhibiting this behavior. So maybe if you're high on Flocka, you crave Wesson.
Maybe.
Regardless, that's behavior. That's red flag behavior. As a parent, you expect to come home and your kid is huffing gas.
Right.
Paint, whatever. These are things that you kind of expect to happen. When they do stuff like this, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, they were. So his dad took kind of a hard stance with him.
Yeah.
And told him, he needed to go back to their house, to his house, because that's where they were staying at his dad's. So he went 2 miles to his mom's, and then he blew past his dad and then walked out of that house. And then on the other 2 miles, he started walking towards his dad's house.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he passed the Stevenson family that he ate their faces off and horrifying things. Like if you want to look it up online or even revisit episode 2, we go into great detail of what he does. But then after that, that's where they caught him. And then he was taken immediately to the hospital. But when they were taking him to the hospital, he refused to open his mouth. And then when they finally got him to the hospital,
what was in his mouth?
Some human flesh.
He had a finger or something in there?
He had like some human skin in there. Jesus. And he spit it out at the police officers.
Jesus.
And he said something to the effect of, "I'm evil."
Yeah. You're also a cannibal.
Yeah, he's also a cannibal.
God, this is horrific. It's like something out of a movie.
Yeah, so get this.
Yeah.
They did several tox screens on him, and they found no drugs in his system.
So he wasn't high on Flocka.
No, he had an almost just a very small trace amount of THC from maybe smoking pot the day before.
Well, is it because he was fiending for Flocka? You know what I mean? Like he's just, like if you can't get your Flocka, he just goes berserk.
Yeah, a lot of people said that they heard him. So this is where it gets really, really weird.
Quick question, Doug. Before you get into the explanation, is it possible that he smokes the Flocka? It literally changes the chemistry in his brain. It's like a permanent mind-altering experience where all of a sudden he thinks he's a wolf.
Right. It could do that, but they would still see some traces. It wouldn't be irreparable.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it would be.
It would still be in the system.
Or there'd be traces of it or something if it had been very recently.
Because how powerful of a drug if it literally would change like your neurological pathways.
Yeah,
where it just permanently changes your perception. It's almost like an acid trip that never ends because it's affected your actual physiology.
Yeah, but the one thing they do on those tests is they took samples of his hair and things of that. Oh, and it didn't show
any history.
Long term. They don't know if it manifests in the hair. But I mean, he could have gotten on something a lot like that 3 weeks ago that like totally messed him up.
Not that I know that people do that. I don't know anything about this, but I've heard, Doug, that a lot of people, like say if they have a drug test, right? They'll drink like 50 gallons of cranberry juice in 3 days, and it's supposed to create a false toxology report so you can pass a drug test. Could it be that the Wesson oil covers the effects of the Flocka in the system? Like he knew that it's like, oh man, I don't want them to find this Flocka in my system. If I drink a quart of Wesson oil, it'll clear that out.
Possibly.
I mean, how does this guy know so much about Flocka?
I have no idea.
The new drug.
So anyway, the other thing that was really, really weird is he left his parents' house. He was fine. Although, I mean, agitated, but okay. By the time he got to, by the time they got him back to the hospital,
Yeah.
His pH, his blood levels, like his white blood cell counts, were all over the charts. He was about to die. And his throat was completely inflamed, so much so that they had to put him on a ventilator. So he drank something crazy from his parents' house to wherever the Stevensons was.
Yeah.
They found a blue bottle with a bottle with blue liquid in it.
Yeah.
And they think maybe that was it. He had been rummaging through the cabinets in the Stevensons' house. They thought for weapons, but there was also all kinds of cleaning supplies on there.
Yeah.
So it's very...
He was just like drinking bleach. Like he just started drinking whatever.
Yeah. So, and so when, like, he was on death's door when we last left this.
Yeah.
He recovered, and after he recovered, as soon as he became alert, his parents and his attorney went to go speak with him, and guess who else called? Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil is in this?
And he called him and got through, and there's a conversation that he had with Dr. Phil.
You're making this up.
I am not.
Dude, what's up with Dr. Phil? The Dr. Phil renaissance
I know.
in the last few months has been
It's insane.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
How is all of a sudden Dr. Phil tapping into the pulse of the underground like this? I mean, Cash Me Outside, how about that?
Yeah.
That's a phenomenon itself. But now you're telling me that Dr. Phil is going to basically shine a light on the Flocka and this horrific story of this dude.
So
Wow.
he was there. He was going to publish the story right after that, but there was such a backlash from the family of the victims.
Yeah, I mean, this is a horrible story. I mean,
It's a terrible story. And
that's why I'm surprised to be on Dr. Phil's radar.
Exactly. But he was right on it. He even flew his father out.
It's us and Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
Well, I think stories like this, even though they're horrific in nature, right? I mean, there's so many questions, to examine.
And
like
so
how does
many, even now, like with everything
like
that's
a normal kid all of a sudden does this? I mean, I think as a parent or even just a friend, like put yourself in the shoes. If this was like your best friend, all of a sudden you're like, what? What happened? And so Dr. Phil gets through. I'm assuming the lawyers in this family was saying, like, don't talk to anybody.
right.
What did this kid say? Did he talk to Dr. Phil?
Well, that's the big thing. So as of 3 hours ago, the judge is still ruling on. He just ruled that he believes that the Dr. Phil tape should be released and put into evidence. So they're going to be part of the public record. And so they were arguing that they couldn't use those, and because he wasn't under Miranda and he wasn't under arrest at the time.
Yeah.
But they're saying that's public record. He was on the Dr. Phil show.
I would tend to agree with that. I mean, if this guy, everyone knows who Dr. Phil is.
Yeah.
I mean, he what does he think? Dr. Phil's going to interview him and not air it?
Yeah. So, and his parents were there. So even he was not a minor. He's 19 at the time. And while mentally unstable, he still talked to Dr. Phil, and that should be allowed into evidence of some way.
Yeah. And the parents were there to kind of consent, right? I mean,
Yeah.
listen, if Dr. Phil calls your house
dad went
and his
to
dad
the show and knew that he was going to be listening to the tape of his son.
Yeah. See, and I mean, honestly, that there's a curiosity factor. Like, I want to hear what his son said. I mean, how and even his dad.
Well, trust me, we will be the first ones to talk about it when
Wow.
when it comes back out. So,
Yeah.
so that's where that story is now. Pretty exciting.
A lot of developments.
A lot of developments.
Look at that. We talked about that in episode 2, and now Dr. Phil's all over it. It's us and Dr. Phil.
Yeah, we're on it. We're on the pulse.
We are.
And so he's facing the death penalty. And then the other story that I wanted to talk to you about is one that I think you're gonna absolutely remember. Do you remember Melina Roberge?
It's tough with the names, dude.
Yeah, Isabel Lagasse.
It's really hard with the names, Doug.
Let me tell you
Were they from Florida?
They went on a cruise.
These were the girls that were smuggling the drugs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
95 kilos of cocaine.
Yeah. The drug cruise.
So the big thing with them now is that they've Isabel was the older girl.
These were, just reset it up. These were two girls that went on a cruise, got caught with like 94 kilos.
A $20,000 cruise.
Yeah, $20,000 cruise.
Around the world.
Around the world. Were caught like 94,000 kilos of
cocaine.
And they were saying that they didn't know anything about it.
Right.
Like they're like, what?
They said they didn't know anything about it, but it was in all of their luggage, and their clothes were intermingled with the cocaine.
Well, that much cocaine, I mean, like to find like a pair of white socks, I mean, how difficult would that be? You'd be like, there's all this cocaine all over my socks.
I mean, they were large bags of cocaine.
Yeah. Like you think you have a deodorant stain on your shirt, but it's just like cocaine like smushed into the fabric of your T-shirt.
It was insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's unbelievable. I mean, to have that much drugs and be like, I don't know, I didn't even know we were carrying this around with us.
Right.
Like bags and bags and boxes and duffel bags full of stuff you never even opened up.
So it was Isabel, who was 28, Melina, who was 22, and this guy Tamini, who was 63. They were all arrested when they got to the port in Sydney. Drug dogs came into the boat. They knew that these kids were considered high risk, and they were the drug dogs instantly hit on their stuff.
Doug, it sounds highly unlikely, but do you think it's possible to be an unknowing like drug dealer? You know what I mean? Like, do you think there's any possible way, like someone has a key to your house right now while you're here doing this podcast, they're storing drugs in your new couch?
Okay.
And you just don't you just never know that it's at your house. All of a sudden, bam, the cops come in and raid your house, and there's kilos all over the place, and you're like, dude, I don't know where this came from. You think it's
I totally think that's possible. People get framed like that all the time.
Yeah.
But do I think this is what happened in this case? Not at all.
Do you think it's possible that they were on this awesome cruise, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, we have all these drugs in our bags, but they were just kind of like, dude, I just want to like enjoy this cruise, like, so
they clearly
they just kind of looked away, like they're like, oh wow, there's a bunch of cocaine in my suitcase. Well, but that all-you-can-eat lobster buffet at midnight sounds pretty good.
Well, at all their ports of call, they were like having a great time, taking photos everywhere. The inter-country task force that was working on this was keeping tabs on them through feeds off of the boat and also from their Instagrams, because they were posting so much, they knew exactly where they were.
Yeah.
So they would say to the local agents, here's where they are, follow them from here, because we just saw them post 5 minutes.
Now, were they like, do they have proof that they were dropping drugs off and picking drugs up? I mean, do they have proof of that?
That is unclear at this
Because
point.
here's the thing, like, what if someone was like...
they think as I understand it right now, they think that they went to one port in South America and one in like Argentina, and those two locations were where they picked them up. I think the other location in South America was like Ecuador or something.
I could see how people could get caught up in this, right? Like, it's when they say, like, never, if someone gives you a bag at an airport, never carry it on the plane or whatever, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like, I could see how people, if they're like, hey, man, we're going to set you up on this cruise, like, just carry the suitcase and whatever, you know what I mean? Just leave it, when you get to Ecuador, just leave it at the airport. Right. That's all you got to do. And we're going to sitting on this, like, dream cruise. I can see how a lot of people, would be like, all right, like, whatever. Like, what they don't know doesn't hurt them, right?
Well, yes.
I'm not saying I would do that, but I can understand how this, how people could.
This is, by the way, this is also, so you know, this is the biggest drug bust on a cruise ship or passenger plane ever.
Are they sure that these weren't just drugs that guys on the cruise were selling to passengers? Because it seems to me like if you're going on like a $20,000 cruise, like if I'm spending $20,000 to go on a cruise, like if I want cocaine, I want my steward to bring me some. You know what I mean? Like it seems like on that level of cruise and that fancy,
right? How
expensive everything's, like you should get whatever you want, right? I mean, are they sure that this just isn't the normal drug supply of the cruise ship?
Well, they're actually looking into the cruise lines as well. See, they know that this is a bigger syndicate problem. Yeah. These aren't the people who were running the cartel.
I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like I've never been on a really super fancy cruise like this as an adult. I did go on a cruise when I was younger, which was awesome. But I can imagine that a super like high end cruise, Are they sure that, because I remember the Midnight Lobster Buffet. You would go to this, I swear to God, Doug, midnight, you go to this dining room, and it was like all the lobster you could eat at midnight. It was awesome.
That sounds amazing.
Now, that's when I was probably like a teenager, right?
Right.
So, that was a long time ago. It was like in the 80s. Well, now it's 2017. How do we know that there's not like there's the cruise and then there's the cruise? Like, it's like there's the cocaine room that they just have. It's like a room full of cocaine that you can just go in and do.
Have no idea.
I don't either. But I'm saying this could be a possibility why they had so much cocaine.
It could be a possibility. Again, I think they were mules.
Yeah.
And I think they have evidence of why they were mules. And I think they're trying to get them to flip.
I think if you're a mule, you just, you get caught, you do the time. I don't think you narc on the source. I think that's how you get like your head cut off.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have friends that work in Southern California for like fire departments and like they go to scenes of like the Mexican drug gangs basically. Right. And like straight up, dude, there'll be like 8 dudes in a bathroom with their heads cut off.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I think this scenario is also really, they're between a rock and a hard place because they can go up against the drug cartel, but they're also facing life in prison in Australia. So it's lose-lose all the way around.
Yeah.
If they're walking the street at any point in time, and the cartels get busted for this.
Well, I guess that's the thing. Being in prison in Australia might be the safest place for them.
Probably.
Although I'm sure the drug cartels can get people on the inside. But
I'm sure.
Australia's supposed to be awesome. Like I've always heard awesome things about Australia. So I bet even the prisons are probably cooler than the ones like out in Modesto.
Yeah, I have no idea, but
or Soledad or wherever.
Right. So the media right now is starting to target Melina. Mm-hmm. Melina has not. She just, as of the start of February, she had a bail hearing. It was postponed. She's the only one that they haven't determined what they're going to do, and she basically was seen briefly in court once, and when she went into court, they were reading her while they were considering the postponement of her bail hearing. They had her reading off of all the crimes that she had committed, and she could not stop sobbing through the whole thing.
Well, it's tough because when they do that, this is the thing about 2017, and these are international crimes that they're committing. But it's like even just in this country, I mean, if you do something illegal, like say you run through a stop sign and you go to court for that, it's like. You're like, I ran a stop sign. But then it's like, you broke like 70,000 laws. Like reckless driving, irresponsible use of a motor vehicle, attempted manslaughter. I mean, like there are so many laws that it's like, you commit one crime, you just broke 78 laws.
Right.
No matter what you do. So obviously, I mean, that's got to be overwhelming, Now, are we on her side? This is the thing I don't understand about where we're at with the story, Doug. Do we have free Melina t-shirts we're going to start selling on our website? Or like, where are we at? Are we supporting them? Are we saying, hey, they're going to do some time? Or are we just kind of reporting the facts without taking a side?
I don't think we're taking a side on this. I mean, she clearly did something that she knows was illegal.
Yeah.
Her dad, before she left for this cruise, it was very spur of the moment. And her dad said, how are you going to cruise around the world? This thing, it must cost a fortune. Who's doing it? And she would not say, and she would not tell her dad anything. He was actually very concerned. And the other girl, Isabel, like she posted stuff like on her, she walked out of her bar, didn't tell her boss anything. All of her friends posted stuff on her website, and she said, if you're going to, haters are going to hate and things like that.
Well, and I guess that's my point, right? Haters are going to hate. Think about how many people are in prison right now because they had a pound of weed that they were driving across state lines or something, like right now.
Yeah.
And then if you look at how the drug laws are changing in this country rapidly, like those people, they didn't commit a crime. So my point is, I think what's interesting when you look at the war on drugs, you look at drug laws, cocaine is still kind of in this different class than marijuana, obviously. But at the same time, do you think say in 15 years, they'll be like, dude, so they had 94 kilos of cocaine. It was for the cocaine room on the cruise ship. Like everyone does this, right? I mean, you think we'll ever get to that point, Doug, where like these types of crimes, you know, and
I do think we'll get to the point where certain, I think drugs are being inappropriately prosecuted at this time.
Well, and this is my point, okay? They have 94 kilos of cocaine. Obviously, they can't do all that cocaine.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like other people will. You know what I mean? Like the 94 kilos of cocaine don't exist because no one is doing cocaine. Like there's clearly a demand for that drug.
Right.
And whatever kind of, you know, part these guys played in getting that to the consumer, you know, sure, they're breaking laws. My thing is that when you look at how the drug laws are changing so quickly in this country, you know, globally, you know, maybe that should you know, my understanding, especially in South America, it's always kind of been like, look the other way, like, oh, yeah, you know, like, whatever.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, Australia has zero tolerance on this. So they're screwed. And there's no wiggle room here. Like
I thought Australia was kind of like progressive with drugs. No, not at all. I know a lot of stoners from Australia. They smoke a lot of weed down there.
I think weed is probably considered okay.
Yeah.
But cocaine is definitely not okay.
In Australia.
Yeah. Okay. And so the other thing is that girl, Isabel, she was a former porn star when she was 19. So she did not have a stellar reputation, and I guess she got counseled on kind of a direction to go. So she pleaded guilty, and she's going to be sentenced on June 30th. So she's got to wait around for quite some time.
So just because the fact this girl was an adult and decided to be in adult movies, which is, you know, there's not laws against that.
No.
She's getting forced to plead guilty?
No.
Like, what does that have to what does that have to do with it? Like
I think that I think she was going to get raked through the press, and they were like, this is not going to be good for you no matter what. You're not like a former missionary who spent your life trying to do good for the world. It's clear that
the press is going to paint her to be this like monster or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So it's nothing's going to get better for her through putting her on trial. Like she doesn't have a case for like a great.
See, I think it'd be great if she was like, yeah, put me on trial. Like, yeah, I was a porn star, whatever. Like,
right.
This is what I did. This is how I made my money.
Right.
Like, don't judge me. Haters are going to hate.
It would be different if she weren't caught with 95 kilos of cocaine.
Well, maybe that could be like her new thing. You know
right.
what I mean? Like she should turn this and use that as her kind of calling card, like the drug dealing porn star.
I think they're basically saying you need to start figuring out how you're going to spin this with the police and give them what they want to know.
Yeah.
Because they don't care about these two girls. They care about who made 95.
The bigger thing. Yeah.
And so then it comes to this other dude who's 63 who has literally no history. Like the only thing that they can find out about him was that he has he didn't have a wife or children, no relatives that they can find or locate. And the press has been scouring, trying to find anything about this dude.
See, that doesn't surprise me though, because you know, you're talking about a dude who's 63 years old, pre-internet, right?
Yeah.
Like my brother is a little bit older than me, and like I think I'm not even sure he may have an email address. I mean,
right.
I really mean it. Like, so like the older person, nowadays, like this generation, when they're 63, you're gonna be able to trace back every single thing they ever did,
right?
Because it's all out there on the information superhighway. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, on the interwebs.
Yeah, the interwebs. But a guy who's 63, that doesn't surprise me that they can't find anything on him because the dude probably like sends everything by stamps. He probably doesn't have a credit card. He probably still farms.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
like
he
rides a horse to work.
He had some small business, but they can't find out what exactly it was.
Yeah.
And they think it was to do with building maintenance.
Yeah.
But it shut down in January.
Huh.
So sounds like a front to me for 95 kilos of cocaine.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing this guy was the watchdog for the cartels for these girls.
Yeah, I'm not making any kind of comments on the cartel, Doug. That's Doug right there.
No, I
making those connections.
Mike held up a big picture, told me what to say. I disagree with him completely, and I think the cartels are not
whatever.
something.
Yeah. I just don't want to be involved.
Yeah,
I
we don't want
know.
to be involved at all. We're not taking sides here.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so that's where it is. So those are two stories for our 25th episode that we wanted to really touch base on, touch back at. I feel like we learned about on this one a lot of stuff.
We did.
Please, obviously, hopefully our live stream went well.
Do you think it's working?
I have no idea.
Awesome.
I have no way to even look at it. And then, visit us on Vomiting Rainbows. See episode 2 where we talk about some of these things. And then give us comments or feedback at contact@vomitingrainbows.com. Any of your ideas or story ideas are totally welcome. If you want us to revisit a story in depth, we'd be happy to. You can also find us and tweet us at We Vomit Rainbows on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.